Some of you will see this, but there's still many that don't. And that is, what is Formula One? Because Formula One is being bastardised from what it was. Let's be clear, many of us have followed the sport for 30 or 40 years, and we know what Formula One has been. But since Liberty Media have taken ownership of it, they've turned it into something different, especially over the last couple of years. And especially in the aftermath of Abu Dhabi, where they're almost trying to condition people with stuff that's going on now that retrospectively kind of makes amends or makes Abu Dhabi somehow, yeah, it was just one of them things, wasn't it? It's all by design. So what they're trying to do with the sport of Formula One is play on the glitz and glamour that's always been there. The sport of Formula One has always been associated with the rich and famous. But now what they're trying to do is make out that, oh, it's a fast-moving 100-mile, 200-mile-an-hour sport, and it's so complex and it's so difficult for everyone to understand. And that's not true, because we do get it and we do understand it. We've been watching it for years. So Brundle, stop trying to tell us we don't know what we're seeing. And what you're doing, you are trying to claim that you don't know the rules, and the rules could be this, and the rules could be that, and the rules might be something else. And you're doing that on purpose to try and convince people that anything can happen, it's all unknown. And that somehow justifies what took place in Abu Dhabi. You are doing that by design. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to sell this sport to kids. You're trying to appeal to this aspirational lifestyle for people. Okay? People want to become excited by stuff. They want to follow something and live the dream. And that's what you're selling them. Formula One is now just a global marketing roadshow where expensive brands sponsor their sport and actually get the exposure of their brand to their global market, their target audience of these aspiring people that want to buy that expensive stuff and live that lifestyle. And Formula One is their way of doing it. They get 23 events a year where they get to show off their wares in this aspirational environment, glitz, glamour, fast-moving, excitement. You don't even need to make your own advertisement for that. You just associate your brand with Formula One and you've got all that. And then your brand appears everywhere that Formula One is mentioned, in social media, in the media. It automatically generates it. And that's what the brand, that's what the whole thing of Formula One now is. Why do you think Liberty Media bought the thing in the first place? Because that's the direction that they knew was going to be their growth area. And that's what they've done. It's done by design. And people need to realise that the media's and the owners' influence on the direction that the sport has gone in. Because they've ruined it and they've turned it into this fake thing, and there's too many people are blind to be able to see it. And I'm going to show you it with this example. It's this. Some of you will have seen the Bond film, Tomorrow Night Never Dies. And what it's about is a media company. And they create controversy. They perpetrate atrocities themselves in order to make news. They manufacture the news and then they profit from it. And that is exactly what Liberty Media has done. They manufactured what took place in the 2021 season. That can be seen over the entire season, but especially by manipulating the outcome of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They did that. I've evidenced that they have got control of the FIA. They own F1 TV, who actually produce and put together the footage that we get to see. They contract Sky Sports F1, who tell us that the version of events that is unfolding on track. But what they're telling us is not in accordance with the rules. They're lying to us as it's actually going on. Then they make sure the FIA don't apply their rules properly to reverse it to the correct outcome of the race. They ensure that the outcome that we saw is maintained. None of these things happen organically. They don't happen by chance. Somebody is in control of that whole narrative. And it is Liberty Media that ultimately have control of the entire situation. And no other media is calling it out, because other media have similar sorts of control over other events in the world, and none of them call each other out. Because by calling one out, they might get exposed for something that they're doing. And that is the way the media is working. But watch this. It is a direct comparison. You will see the parallels being drawn between this film, Tomorrow Never Dies, and what is truly going on in Formula One.
But perhaps with all your jetting around, you have not had chance to peruse today's headlines. I rather like the last one.
Max Verstappen is the world champion in this controversial Abu Dhabi Grand Prix ending to the season, but wins the last lap showdown. There were the headlines we saw. Nobody explained the truth, but everybody saw the headlines. And then we have 3 months of lots of speculation, lots of headlines, conflict created by what took place, conflict created by the different opinions being given in the media, conflict in social media, which sets social media alight, increased traffic in social media, meaning the advertising space there is grown in value because more people get eyes on what it is that they're looking at, which means that the brands reach more people, which means it costs them more to advertise, which means Liberty Media get richer, and all the F1 teams get richer because they can charge more for the advertising space, because it now gets seen by more people who are now somehow interested in the sport, because they've heard about the sport now and they've realised something's going on in Formula One. So what's going on? Let's find out.
It isn't even mine.
I never believe what I read in the press anyway.
Therein lies your problem, Mr. Bond. You see, we're both men of action, but your era and Miss Lynn's is passing. Words are the new weapons. Satellites, the new artillery.
And you become the new Supreme Allied Commander?
Exactly. Caesar had his legions, Napoleon had his armies. I have my divisions. TV, news, magazines.
But Liberty Media, in addition to having their TV, their newspapers, their magazines, they've got control of the FIA. They use the FIA to create the rules, to break their own rules, and apply the rules in ways to manufacture the outcomes that they want. That is what they've done. Because along the lines, that could have been rectified. It's within the rules that it gets rectified, and they've not even applied their own rules properly. They've got control of the media that is used to broadcast this. They contract Sky Sports F1. They employ the likes of Martin Brundle to convince people that what they're seeing is authentic and it is all possible, when he just comes out with lie after lie after lie, not in accordance with the rules, to convince people that this is normal and this is possible. That's not normal. He's reading off a script because that's what they want him to tell everybody, because that actually validates their agenda and convinces people that it's authentic. They've got control of the rest of the media because, like I said, the rest of the media is not going to call them out on this. That is the way this is working.
And by midnight tonight, I'll have reached and influenced more people than anyone in the history of this planet, save God himself.
And there you go. 108 million people tuned in to watch the event live. And subsequently, the global headlines have been about the fact that the world title was settled on the last lap of the last Grand Prix of the season. It might have been controversial. And then 3 months later we find out, oh, it's determined that it was just a human error. Move on. It's all a created narrative.
And the best he ever managed was a Sermon on the Mount.
You really are quite insane.
The distance between insanity and genius is measured only by success.
We're in position between the fleets.
Fire one missile at the flagship of each fleet. The Chinese will think the British are rattling the saber. The British will think the Chinese are being belligerent. And the media will provide cool, objective coverage.
So, break the rules, create the excitement, create a new world champion, and the media will validate it. It will cause conflict. The Max fans will want Max to win. The Lewis fans will want Lewis to win. The Max fans will say Max fully deserved it because the media will give them that validation. The Lewis fans will say this was cheating. You've manipulated this. It will cause conflict. It doesn't matter. We make money.
Let the mayhem begin. What you're about to witness,
Can you not see what's going on?
Miss Lynn, is not so much a missile attack, but the launch of a new world order. In precisely 5 minutes after your countrymen have attacked the British fleet, I shall retaliate for dear old England by sending this missile into Beijing. But General Chang has just called an emergency meeting of the Chinese High Command. Unfortunately, General Chang will be delayed in traffic, arriving just after the missile has killed your leaders, and too late to stop the Air Force from sinking the entire British fleet. But he will be just in time to take over the government, negotiate a truce, and emerge as a world leader with a Nobel Peace Prize.
What do you get?
Me?
This isn't about changing regimes. This is not about changing leadership. This is about wealth. This is about the divide between those with the power and the wealth and wielding it for their own personal gain.
Oh, nothing. Just exclusive broadcasting rights in China for the next 100 years. How romantic. Don't you realize how absurd your position is?
No more absurd than starting a war for ratings.
Great.
Starting a war for ratings. Look at the conflict that's been created. Look at the amount of conflict in online F1 social media. Created, manufactured, easy to nip in the bud, easy to just simply say, we got it wrong. We misapplied the rules. We made a mistake. This is the right thing to do. But they haven't done that. And the reason they haven't done that because it wasn't a mistake. They wanted it that way. They made it that way. It was no mistake. And then they turn on us and saying, oh, online social media is so toxic. You created this. You wanted this. You made it. You made the conflict because the conflict makes you money.
Men have always manipulated the media to save the world. Look at William Randolph Hearst, who told his photographers, you provide the pictures, I'll provide the war. I've just taken it one step further.
Sorry about that. I tuned out there for a moment, Elliot.
See the big picture, everybody, because this is what they've done. This is what they're doing with the sport of Formula One. It's to make money. Yes, there's other agendas, well, other agendas. And we know that racism is part of that. To some involved in this show, this sport, the fact of Lewis Hamilton being the man he is, becoming the greatest ever in the sport, is something they couldn't stomach. So that's a factor. But the biggest factor is money and wealth. And they manufactured this, and this is the mechanism that they've used to manufacture that. And the sooner you get your heads around it and believe that that is actually true, the sooner you'll start seeing through the bullshit presented and understanding exactly what I'm saying about the fact that Abu Dhabi was systematically fixed.